Okay.
Hi, welcome to On the Scene. I'm Brenda.
I'm Karen.
I'm Nancy.
And I'm Sharon.
And today we are going to be talking about women in the Civil War.
The first topic that we are going to address is women at home. In the Civil War, some women accompanied their husbands to the Civil War military installations. In 1861, the government created a U.S. Sanitary Commission to supply Union troops with food, medicine, and supplies. Women had the goal of sending each soldier one care package a month. Some Southern women took wounded soldiers into their homes to nurse them back to health.
Very interesting.
Next up on the list is women in front lines. There were more than 400 women who disguised themselves as men and fought in the Union and Confederate armies during the Civil War. There were also thousands of women in the North and South that signed up to work as nurses during the Civil War.
And that leads us into our next topic, women in medicine. When the war came, there weren't barely enough male nurses, so women ended up being allowed to serve as nurses because they weren't before. And then often male surgeons got to choose who their nurses were, and many times they wouldn't choose the women if there were men left because, I don't know, they were just sexist, so they just really didn't like the women. And then Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell was one of the first women to earn her medical degree in the United States. She ran an infirmary for women and children in the slums of New York when she first started. And then when the war started, she started an organization of 4,000 women called the WCAR. And they collected and distributed life-saving supplies such as blankets, canned food, and things like that.
It's interesting.
Now we are going to talk about the roles of women during abolition. If you aren't familiar, abolition is the action of abolishing a practice, system, etc. In this case, we are talking about slavery abolition. In the early years, women were not direct activists and weren't expected to take part in politics because, like Carly said, they were very sexist during this time and they just, yeah, that's how it was. By 1788, the Abolition Society had 206 females involved. They just threw me off, I'm sorry.
It's fine, you can redo it.
Yeah, just read your part.
Alright. Now we are going to talk about the roles of women during abolition. If you aren't familiar, abolition is the action of abolishing a practice, system, etc. In this case, we are talking about abolition of slavery. In the earlier years, women were not direct activists and weren't expected to take part in politics. By 1788, the Abolition Society had 206 females involved, which was pretty good considering the fact that it was mostly ran by men and they finally allowed women in it, and it was a big difference. Women's groups visited more than 80% of homes trying to get people to support their cause. They would go to their homes and basically just like sit and talk with them and talk about how slavery should be abolished. Many women wrote anti-slavery poems and stories as a way to get people to understand what they were fighting for. And a notable participant during this was Harriet Tubman, who made 19 trips back and forth and rescued 300 people by what is known as the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad was a network of secret routes and safe houses that went north to Canada. Some people would get dropped off in free states and others would take the whole route back to Canada.
That's interesting.
Okay. And now some facts about the Civil War. We have, in 1850, the Fugitive Slave Act law was passed as part of the Compromise of 1850. It gave Southern slaveholders legal weapons to capture slaves that escaped to the free states.
It was the deadliest war in American history. Bloodiest battle was the Battle of Gettysburg in Pennsylvania.
Many factors led up to this war, such as conflicting feelings with slavery, the election of Abraham Lincoln, and federal rights, and there was way more too.
The North had more men and materials than the South.
And 1/3 of the soldiers who fought were immigrants.
Many of the spies during the Civil War were women. They seemed pretty good at deceiving and taking in information.
And that has been On the
On the
Scene with all of us. Thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye.
Gang.